Hello everyone. I'd like to read from my book Intense Design that just came out, and I want to read from chapter 12, Applied Design Ethnography. So actually I don't think I'll read from it, I'll just talk about it. There was a chapter prior to it, which is an earlier section of the book that was sort of theoretical, that talks about ethnography and anthropological foundations and such. But I have a section in here that talks about what do you do with this method. So as designers, you sort of have two worlds that you pursue. One is mechanistic, making your designs work, and the other are non-mechanistic, which are connected with perceived values, whether it's brand, spiritual, social, these sort of things that don't directly relate to how a product works, but they're really important. So I actually start this part saying, congratulations, you have read through a lot of dense writing that was intended to provide a foundation for these application chapters. And I'm afraid that's just the way my mind works. You develop some kind of foundation, and then you move into application. So depending on how you're wired, you can skip the first half of this and go right to the second half and gain benefit from that. Because at the end of the day, my key concern is real design. Real, financially driven usually, or some other maybe altruistic motivator, but something, creating designs that are actually needed and not just studying design. So in any event, I write about ethnography is helpful in developing problems or identifying problems and insights. And I have a section, these are short sections though, and there's referrals here if you want more information. But talk a little bit about the interview process, questionnaires, observations, focus groups, usability testing, these kind of things, which are kind of nuts and bolts ways of getting data in a way that especially technically oriented people might not be familiar with. So when you ask one person a few questions, that can be good and bad. It can be dangerous because you're only getting one person's input. And sometimes that can lead you certainly down the wrong road. But how do you get many people's input, and what do you do with it? How do you process it? It's not numbers and math equations. It's these sort of descriptions or shrugs of the shoulder or other nonverbal statements that are difficult to characterize. And we're really good with that. We're all ethnographers. We read people all the time. We make good judgments often. And how do you pull that into the world of design? Well, that's what this section is intended to do, and even covers a little bit about analysis, how you take data, convert that data into themes, and try to extract information from that. So you have data-driven design or user-centered design, which if you talk about user-centered design, that's got to be data-driven design, the data being the user experience. And how do you get that user experience, and how do you sort of describe it and characterize it and include it in sort of group discussions. So it's not just you went and kicked the tires, you went to a trade show and this is what you thought, but you can say, well, person X said this, person Y said this, person Z said this, but person X also meant this, and person Y did this sort of thing, and person Z spoke to these other people in a different way, and what they said and what they did and how they related socially were different. So it's really complex, and in the end of the day, you make some judgments in there. I have a little form for assessing environmental environments, for example. So if you're doing environmental design, I think it's helpful, and it includes things like the initial reaction words when you encounter a space. You walk into a store and you say wow, or dark, or yucky, or whatever it may be. The dominant visual, the first color observed, the dominant color, the dominant sound, and the dominant smell. So you write these things down, or have your researchers write them down. And then human observations, again, this happens to be with environmental design. The density of the space, the traffic flow and the patron's movements, the patron's age, attire, what they're doing, what the employees are wearing, what the employees are doing, and then some technical stuff on lighting, the source, the intensity, the color of the lighting, air movement, background sounds, the flooring, ceiling, walls, architectural elements and furnishings, and these sort of things. So that's more for environmental design. Then I have a discussion of focus groups and usability testing and a bit with analysis too. And then I have some examples of thematic analysis, just two samples actually of really, a thematic analysis. So anyway, ethnography is really important, and it's sort of the scary area in the sense that it's hard to articulate sometimes, but it's especially important when you're dealing with users who are different than you. So you can't design for an 8-year-old girl. You can't design for an 80-year-old man. So to design for those populations, you need to get information from them by observing them or asking them questions or by some other means. And those are ethnographically rooted. So what does a 3-year-old consider to be fun? What does an 80-year-old consider to be engaging? And you have that with people of different cultures and all these demographic issues that come into play. So in the world of professional design, you're really trying to get into their mindset. And of course, we do that with ergonomics using anthropometric data and other physical measurements to say this population has these physical dimensions, so we can accommodate those physical dimensions, or kinesiological limitations and these sort of things for people with disabilities. And anyway, so that's all kind of the world of ethnography and thinking like other people, very important in the world of professional design, as opposed to designing for yourself. Thank you.